Josh, last week, when I had you on for the first episode, you literally said the words of, it'd be really cool to talk about what a healthy console war competition really is. I forgot how you phrased it, but that's how I kind of heard it as.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like I said before, these are very broad topics that could be their entire own episode. We will see what we can do here. But the surface level trigger to this is, of course, the whole ActiBliss thing. And if you're not into the deal, don't worry, because I want to phrase this question in a way that everybody can hop on it. Because I admit, I'm a little bit tired of hearing about this deal too, but I think it's kind of an interesting question to ask. So you can see on screen here, basically Microsoft CEO, he got asked about, I think it was actually for a whole thing about Microsoft in general. And his statement, he's talking about the deal, but he said something interesting about, it's going to fall under scrutiny. And of course, in his words, of course, any acquisition of this size will go under scrutiny, but we feel very confident that will come out. I don't think it's about him being confident it'll come out that I want to talk about. I want to talk about him saying, he brings up Sony, our main competitor, one of our main competitors, has also acquired studios, including big ones like Bungie. So he continues, if this is about competition, let us have competition. That quote, I think, is the main thing I want to focus on, because we could go multiple directions. But if this is about competition, let us have competition. And I don't want to necessarily talk about, well, Microsoft has this, Sony has that. But as you said last week, like, what is a healthy console war? And my thing I want to add to this is, what does competition do? What does it create that could be the good and bad? And my absolute summary of it is, the bad is the flag waivers. And the term fanboy has come out. And I've always not liked that term, because I think people should be fans for things. But that term has become like such the word toxic one. I'm trying to use the word kind of tribal or whatever. That's the bad of the console wars, is some of the peeps that try to make it spread like an actual toxic fire. The good of it is what the consumers get out of it. They get certain deals. They potentially get more projects developed. And that's because if you're into anime like I am, you got a rival pushing you to do more. You have a rival that's pushing you to become better and to keep getting better. And that is an immense summary to me, is that to me, the bad creates some toxic fans, and that the bad talk is a lot louder than the good talk, in my opinion. And then the good is it creates potential opportunities to grow from, and literally deals, things developed. But Josh, what's the good and bad of having a competition between potentially Microsoft and Sony?
When 2 or 3 or more companies are competing for market share, they have to come up with good ideas that are going to make their consumers happy enough to spend money on their product. So, anything that, so if Sony or Microsoft were just dominating right now, and it was not a close race at all, then that company could basically do what they wanted. So Sony, for example, or PlayStation, the fact that they put, this is kind of a small example, but the fact that they put Stray as a game that people who were paying for their, not the premium, but the extra tier of PlayStation Plus got at no extra cost, you can pretty much thank Microsoft for doing all the stuff they've done for that. Like the fact that Game Pass kicks so much ass is why PlayStation is doing
the PlayStation 5 collection that they kicked off.
Exactly, the PlayStation 5 collection. So if you buy a PlayStation 5, you get a lot of first-party games at no extra cost via PlayStation Plus. That's PlayStation competing with Microsoft and Xbox Game Pass. And you can actually thank Game Pass, or you can thank Sony for kicking so much ass in the PS4 generation. That's why Game Pass, I mean, that's not the only reason, but I would argue that's the biggest reason why Game Pass exists at all. What's his face? Don Matrick, screwed up so bad at the Xbox One launch. The Xbox One generation never really caught up with PlayStation 4. They brought in Phil Spencer. I don't know whose idea Game Pass was, but I'm sure Phil Spencer had a lot to do with it. They're like, let's come up with something that is going to really disrupt what Sony has established on the PlayStation side of things. They have Game Pass. So that's what competition does.
Yeah.
It breeds innovation. It makes companies get creative. It makes companies have,
and it's almost what they could do at the time too. Like that's what we can take to the forefront right now. Cause we'll make the quality games, but this is something that we can do right now, and if people catch on, they're gonna potentially have to do it too. But we're gonna be first to do it. And that's another part of competition is who does it first, kind of a thing, and who might continue to do it better. Sorry, you can keep going.
You see it go back and forth. If you go all the way back to the Xbox 360, which the Xbox 360 and PS3 generation, Xbox was winning that generation for the vast majority of the first half or 3/4 of it. And that's when PlayStation was like, all right, we're behind. What do we do? Well, we've got this franchise called Uncharted that's doing really well. Let's make more of those games and see what happens there. And from there, you get them acquiring, Sucker Punch and making Infamous one of their flagship franchises. And you get The Last of Us, and you get Horizon. So
I'll never forget the day they got Insomniac, man. I I was primary Xbox at the time, and I was like, ooh.
Yep.
So
it's all that's what competition does. It is good. The bad part is, this tribalism, like. It's more on the consumer side of things. I do think that definitely the companies do stuff that's not good too. Like, well, I won't get into that right now. But the really ugly part of it is these, people who put down, if like they're like they have an Xbox and they love Xbox, and they think that part of being a big Xbox fan is putting down people who play on PlayStation. Like, that crap is so lame.
Yeah, for those watching the stream, I'm literally just going to loop this freaking shot of you from Game On Daily's intro yesterday. I love it so much, dude. I didn't even see the intro, but I see this. And, you're wearing this Xbox shirt and you're holding up a PlayStation mug. You know why? Because you could just... I'm not saying everybody needs to own all these consoles, but admittedly, you have more. If you do, you have more.
Yeah.
And just being locked on this sense of you just, like, you have to belittle the other guy. It's bullshit. I'm just going to be blunt. It's absolute bullshit.
It is, and it's 100%. And it's okay to feel disappointed if you only own one console, and then, like, if you only own a PlayStation, and then you see that Microsoft buys Bethesda, and it's likely that you're not going to get Elder Scrolls 6. It's okay to feel disappointed about that, but don't make Xbox gamers, don't put them down because, Microsoft did something that disappointed you. That's lame.
And I promise you, there's some things I've seen where it's like, well, you're not looking at the evidence. And then I'm like, dude, there is going to be so much different kinds of evidence that is going to be evidence to depending on how you see things. And that's the thing. There's just not going to be the answer. It's just whatever your preferences are. And you don't ever got to say stuff. I can't stand it. I have a viral video that's over 1 million views now, and I really need to turn off the comments on that video because it is so crazy. And this is the other fun part about competition is you get to potentially have fun with it too, To me, that's why back in the day, I liked talking about, the PS5 and Series X, whatever, coming out, because I want to see what these guys do against each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun to me. Like, it's not like I want to wave any flames and make them grow. It's just like, how are they going to outdo? It's like you're watching a sports match And if you're into both teams, like I want to see a good fight kind of a thing. That's fun. Like, but making it to another place, that's just poor sportsmanship, basically. So
yeah, totally. And if you're a diehard gamer, and you're really upset that one of these. Now I understand if you have an Xbox and you're trying to get a PlayStation, that can be tough. But like, let's say you have a PlayStation 5 and you're just like, man, Xbox is killing it, and I wish I had some of that. Like the $300 Xbox Series S, that's another example of something that exists because of competition. Like, you can save up some money. Well, I shouldn't say you can. I understand some people can't, but if you have an amount of disposable income that allows you to save up some money, buy an Xbox Series S, subscribe to Game Pass for $1 a month at first, and then it's $15 a month after that. Like,
yeah,
it's a great deal for what they offer. Like, just that would be my recommendation if you can afford it. And you're. I
do have to say though, there's and we have to be careful about not diverging too much. But I have been telling people, like, this is the first time I have actually owned the newest Nintendo console, which is an OLED. I have the OLED, I have a Series X, and I have a PS5 with the disc drive. This is the first time since the GameCube, Xbox, and PS2 era that I've had that. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm a little bit miserable. And I say that because, God, is there so many choices,
Yep.
I think I saw a tweet from you where it's like, I just want to be able to play these games. And I'm like, it's hard making the time for that, ain't it? When there's more choices.
Yep.
And
yeah.
But that's eventually what we're going to be doing. Like, they're just going to keep, you made, and, we're not talking about the Activision Blizzard deal. Because, again, I feel I'm not quite on the level that Asa was a Game On Daily, but I am a little bit tired talking about it. But, like, if they're going to have COD, then, you're going to have to find other ways of having a first-person shooter that can compete with that. If they're going to have Elder Scrolls, then you're going to have to make an RPG that can compete with that, And that's, they did that with Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, that was their first big open-world game, and it was great. And Breath of the Wild came out, but it's just competition. It's just what it creates games like Horizon was created. It creates games, it creates deals, and it can create a fun show to watch if you don't let it get out of hand. So
yes,
that's pretty much the preaching. But I am going to read a thingy from the chat, which is Patrick saying, competition is a double-edged sword. While it keeps developers on its toes and produces quality games, it often devolves into an empty pissing contest when the market plateaus and contracts. And also he says that loop of view was great. 10 out of 10. I agree. I totally think it is. And Jacob Nov, competition is good, but for example, people say that they don't want to buy a Bethesda game that they like because it's an Xbox exclusive. When the same people said, or example, want to play Spider-Man or Street Fighter 5, they buy a PS5. And I don't know. That's what I mean. Like, it influences choices sometimes where you want to go, but maybe exclusives don't have to be the only way. That's maybe what the Game Pass deal is, and this conversation could go so many ways. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you were making a point a couple weeks back. I can't remember if it was. I think you made a video about it. But anyways, like
the quality
exclusives are exclusives kind of going away? I don't think they're going away, but I do think on the Microsoft side of things, an exclusive is so much different than it is on PlayStation. Like on Xbox, you can you don't need an Xbox to play Xbox exclusives. If you have a PC with a half decent graphics card, you can play most. What's that?
Or a tablet, or a laptop.
Totally. 100%. So, I don't know if Sony is going to go that direction or not, but on the Microsoft side of things, like if you want to play Starfield, and you've got any of those devices, you can do it. And a good internet connection, I will say that.
Yeah, definitely good internet connection. But, chat, what do you think of competition? Is it overall good? Is it overall bad? The live stream, there is a poll, and it says 80% think it's good. But maybe you disagree, and that's fine. We could all agree and disagree. It's fine to disagree, but don't shout about it, kind of a thing. Or just mostly belittle people, I think, is the part that I'm trying to get at. But that's take. What do you think? Let us know in the chat, in the comments.